If someone in a position of authority told you to, like, stop walking on the grass, you would stop walking on the grass, right? And if they told you to help someone's grandma cross the street, or pick up your dog's poop, or put your shoes on before you go into a store, you'd probably comply. But what if they ordered you to physically hurt another person? You're probably thinking, no way, I could never do something like that. But there's a good chance you're wrong. In the early 1960s, Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram began what would become one of social psychology's most famed and chilling experiments. Milgram began his work during the widely publicized trial of World War II Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann. Eichmann's defense, along with other Nazis, for sending millions of people to their deaths, was that he was simply following the orders of his superiors. And while that may have been true, it didn't fly in court, and Eichmann was ultimately executed for his crimes. But the question got Milgram to thinking, what might the average person be capable of when under orders? So for his initial experiment, Milgram recruited 40 male volunteers using newspaper ads. He built a phony shock generator with a scale of 30 switches that could supposedly deliver shocks in increments from 30 volts up to 450 volts, labeled with terms like slight shock to dangerous shock up to simply XXX. He then paired each volunteer participant with someone who was also apparently a participant, but was in fact one of Milgram's colleagues posing as a research subject. He had them draw straws to see who would be the learner and who would be the teacher. The volunteers didn't realize that the draw was fixed, so that they'd always be the teacher while Milgram's buddy would be the learner. So the fake learner was put into a room strapped to a chair and wired up with electrodes. The teacher, the person who was being studied, and a researcher who was played by an actor went into another room with a shock generator that the teacher had no idea was fake. The learner was asked to memorize a list of word pairs, and the participant was told that he'd be testing the learner's recall of those words and should administer an electric shock for every wrong answer, increasing the shock level a little bit each time. From here, the pretend learner purposely gave mainly wrong answers, eliciting shocks from the participant. If a participant hesitated, perhaps swayed by the learner's yelps of pain, the researcher gave orders to make sure he continued. These orders were delivered in a series of 4 prods. The first was just, please continue. If the participant didn't comply, the researcher issued other prods until he did. He'd say, the experiment requires you to continue, and then, it's absolutely essential that you continue, and finally, you have no choice but to continue.
Nice. Day sky job chair. Wrong. Answer is day. 285 volts.
Continue, please.
Fat. Man, lady, tub, neck. Answer, please. Wrong. Answer is neck. 300 volts.
I absolutely refuse to answer anymore. Get me out of here. You can't hold me here. Get me out. Get me out of here.
Continue. The next word is green, please.
Green. Grass, hat, ink, apple. I can't go on. It won't answer.
If the learner doesn't answer in a reasonable time, about 4 or 5 seconds, consider the answer wrong and follow the same procedures you have been doing for wrong answers. Say wrong, tell them the number of volts, give them the punishment, read them the correct answer.
Oh, man.
Continue, please.
Green. Grass, hat, ink, apple. Answer, please.
Go on with the procedure, please, teacher.
315 volts. The answer is ink. Next one.
I refuse to answer.
Well, you gotta keep getting a shock if you don't answer. Gold, dollar, necklace, moon, paint. Answer, please. Are you all right? 405 volts. The answer is moon. Next one, heart, stone, head, bread, work. Answer, please. The answer is head, 420 volts. Next one, wet, night, grass, duck, cloth. The answer is duck, 435 volts. It says danger, severe shock here. Next X on the next one.
Continue, please.
435 volts. Next one, brave, woman, soldier, dog, horse. Answer is woman, 450 volts. That's it.
Now continue using the last switch on the board, please. The 450 switch for each wrong answer. Continue, please.
I'm not getting no answer.
Please continue. The next word is white.
But you think you should look in on them, please?
Not once we've started the
But
experiment.
what if something's happened to the man had an attack or something there?
The experiment requires that we continue. Go on, please.
Don't the man's health mean anything?
Whether the learner likes it or not, we
But
must...
he might be dead in there. I mean, some people can't take the shock, sir.
Please
I mean,
continue.
I don't tend to be rude, but I mean, I think you should look in on them.
Whether
I mean,
the...
all you gotta do is look at the door. If I don't get no answer, no noise, something I think has happened to the gentleman in there, sir.
We must continue. Go on, please.
You're gonna keep giving him what, 450 volts every shot now?
That's correct. Continue. The next word is white.
Rock, house. Answer. Wrong. 150 volts. Answer, horse.
Oh. Experiment, that's all. Get me out of here. I told you I had heart trouble. My heart's starting to bother me now. Get me out of here, please.
Continue,
My
please.
heart's
Go right
starting
on.
to bother me. I refuse to go on. Let me out.
Refuses to go on.
The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue. The next word is sad.
Incorrect. You'll now get a shock of 75 volts.
Oh,
Soft hair. He kind of did some yelling in there.
Continue, please.
Incorrect. You'll now get a shock of 105 volts.
oh.
Hard head. Just how far can you go in this thing?
As far as is necessary.
What do you mean as far as is necessary?
To complete the test, we'll find all the words first. Please continue.
I sure don't know the effect of this thing, and I'm a little skeptical about electricity.
The experiment requires that you go on, teacher. Please continue.
Incorrect. 150 volts.
Oh.
Sad face.
Experimenter, that's all. Get me out of here. I told you I had heart trouble. My heart's starting to bother me now. Get me out of here, please.
Continue.
My heart's starting to
Continue,
bother me.
teacher.
I
Go on.
refuse to go on. Let me out.
I think we ought to find out what's wrong in there first.
The experiment requires that you continue, teacher.
Well, the experiment might require that we continue, but I still think we should find out what the condition of the gentleman is.
Now, as I said before, although the shocks may be painful, they're not dangerous.
Look, I don't know anything about electricity. I don't profess any knowledge, nor will I go any further until I find out if the guy's okay.
It's absolutely essential that you continue.
Well, essential or not, this program isn't quite that important to me that I should go along doing something that I know nothing about, particularly if it's going to injure someone. I don't know what this is all about.
Well, whether the learner likes it or not, we must go on until he's learned all the word pairs correctly.
Well, you can sure have your 450 back. I didn't want it anyhow. I intend to give it to some charitable organization, but I wouldn't go on with it.
The 450 is not the issue here. That check is yours simply
Yeah, I
to
realize
to the
that.
lab. It is essential that you continue the experiment.
No, it isn't essential. Not one bit.
You have no other choice, teacher.
Oh, I have a lot of choices. My number one choice is that I wouldn't go on if I thought he was being harmed.
Even Milgram was surprised by the first round of experiments. About 2/3 of the participants ended up delivering the maximum 450-volt shock. All of the volunteers continued to at least 300 volts. Over years, Milgram kept conducting this experiment, changing the situation in different ways to see if it had any effect on people's obedience. What he repeatedly found was that obedience was highest when the person giving the orders was nearby and was perceived as an authority figure, especially if they were from a prestigious institution. This was also true if the victim was depersonalized, or placed at a distance, such as in another room. Plus, subjects were more likely to comply with orders if they didn't see anyone else disobeying, if there were no role models of defiance. In the end, Milgram's path-breaking work shed some seriously harsh light on the enormous power of two of the key cornerstone topics of social psychology: social influence and conformity.